If you're thinking about renting out your house here in Central Florida, there's one mistake I see homeowners make all the time. They rush into it. They find a tenant, quickly hand over the keys, and assume everything is going to work itself out. But becoming a landlord is very different from simply owning a home. And what you do before the tenant ever moves in can make a huge difference in your stress level, your maintenance costs, the quality of your tenant, and ultimately, whether the property becomes a good investment or a headache. So in this video, let's walk through some of the most important things homeowners should do before renting out their property here in Florida. Now before we get too far into the video, let me quickly introduce myself. If we haven't met before, my name is David Weber with State Property Management. We manage rental properties throughout the Orlando and Central Florida area, and a lot of the owners we work with started exactly where you may be right now. Some are relocating, some inherited a property, some are testing the market before selling, and others are becoming landlords for the very first time. And one thing we've learned over the years is this: the more prepared you are before the property hits the market, the smoother the entire process usually goes. So the first thing you want to do is honestly evaluate the condition of your home. And this is where many homeowners struggle a little bit emotionally, because when you've lived in a property, you stop noticing certain things over time. But tenants are going to look at the home differently. They're comparing it against every other rental on the market. So before listing the property, take a hard look at the paint condition, the flooring, appliances, landscaping, cleanliness, fixtures, and the general maintenance of the property. And one thing I always tell owners is this: deferred maintenance almost always becomes more expensive later. Now, another important mindset shift is understanding that rental properties are going to experience wear and tear. That doesn't mean tenants should damage the property, but normal use over time is part of owning a rental. If you're extremely emotionally attached to the home or expecting it to stay in perfect condition forever, that can make being a landlord much more stressful. This is a business decision, and it helps to approach it with that mindset from the beginning. Now, this is a really important one that sometimes gets overlooked. Before renting the property, make sure your insurance is updated properly. A policy for an owner-occupied home may not be the right coverage once the property becomes a rental. And this is definitely something you want to discuss directly with your insurance agent, because the last thing you want is to discover there's a coverage issue after a claim happens. Next comes pricing. And this is another area where emotions can sometimes get involved. A lot of owners price the property based on what they need financially, what their mortgage payment is, or what they hope to get. But the market doesn't really care about those things. The market is going to determine the value based on comparable rentals, condition, location, features, and current supply and demand. And one of the biggest mistakes we see is overpricing the property at the beginning, because the longer a rental sits vacant, the more money you usually lose overall. Now, before becoming a landlord, it's also important to understand that maintenance issues are going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's when. Air conditioning issues, plumbing issues, appliance breakdowns, water heaters. These things are part of rental property ownership. And one of the biggest mistakes new landlords make is underestimating maintenance costs. So it's important to budget realistically and prepare for unexpected repairs before they happen. Another important step is understanding your responsibilities as a landlord here in Florida. And just to mention, this video is based on our real-world property management experience here in Central Florida. It's not legal advice. And if you have specific legal questions, you should always speak with a qualified attorney. But generally speaking, landlords have responsibilities involving maintenance, habitability, notices, security deposits, lease compliance, and proper procedures. And one thing I can tell you from experience is this: a lot of landlord problems happen because owners unknowingly skip important steps or procedures. Now, if there's one area that can make or break your rental experience, it's tenant screening. A good tenant can make owning a rental property relatively smooth. A bad tenant can create an enormous amount of stress, expense, and risk. And this is another area where new landlords sometimes move too quickly because they're eager to stop the vacancy. But taking extra time up front to properly screen applicants is almost always worth it. Now, another important thing to think about before renting out your property is whether you actually want to manage it yourself. Because managing rental property involves much more than collecting rent. There's leasing, tenant communication, maintenance coordination, notices, renewals, inspections, vendor management, accounting, and handling problems when they happen. And for some owners, self-management works great, but for others, especially those relocating, busy with work, or managing from out of state, it can become overwhelming pretty quickly. Now, based on what we've seen over the years, some of the biggest mistakes new landlords make are rushing to place a tenant, overpricing the property, ignoring maintenance, being too emotionally attached to the home, or not understanding the responsibilities involved. And usually the smoother rental experiences happen when owners prepare properly from the beginning. And this is one of the reasons many owners decide to work with a professional property management company, because there are a lot of moving parts involved in renting out a property successfully. So if you own property here in the Central Florida area and need help preparing it for the rental market, feel free to reach out to us at State Property Management. You can also visit our website at www.managecentralfloridaproperty.com for additional resources and information about our property management services. We're always happy to be a resource and answer questions. Now, just to wrap this up, renting out your house can absolutely be a great long-term investment, but success usually starts before the tenant ever moves in. The better prepared you are up front, the smoother the experience tends to be later. If you found this helpful, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell so you're notified when we release new videos. We put out content like this regularly to help landlords and property owners navigate real-world rental situations. And if you have questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future videos, feel free to leave those in the comments below. Thanks again for watching. I'm David Weber from State Property Management, and I'll see you in the next one.